Okay, it's that time of the week. We call it Around the Movie Block with The Rock. A movie report with Rocco Pasafune.
Thank you very much, Howie. The movie I have for you this week is called The Happy Time Murders. It is directed by Brian Henson and it stars Melissa McCarthy. In this story, when the puppet cast of an 80s children's TV show, The Happy Time Gang, begins to get murdered one by one, disgraced LAPD detective turned private eye puppet Phil Phillips and his ex-human partner Connie Phillips, played by McCarthy, are on the case. If you notice the name Henson, that's a big deal because Brian Henson is the son of legendary puppeteer Jim Henson. He has taken the mantle of his father's studio, him and the whole family, and this is the first Jim Henson studio project that's come out in quite some time. And as we all know, the Jim Henson studio was huge with the Muppets and with Sesame Street, and particularly in the 80s they got into filmmaking and made some very interesting movies that come out, like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And obviously this is Brian Henson's attempt to kind of create his own kind of version of, a Dark Crystal or a Labyrinth. Unfortunately, the movie really does not quite hit on that same level. And the reason I feel that way is because, yes, this really pushes the envelope in the idea of creating like an adult puppet story. We've seen them before, actually. There was a movie I saw a long time ago from New Zealand. It was actually one of Peter Jackson, who did the Lord of the Rings movies. One of his earliest movies was a puppet movie for adults. It was called Meet the Feebles, and it was a really quirky little movie. But unfortunately, with this particular movie, what really makes this kind of miss the mark a little bit is the fact that, yes, you have this sort of adult sensibility with something that's been very traditionally for kids, which is, with puppets and things like that. And they've had similar attempts at doing this in the last couple of years, with the Avenue Q play and, like I said before, with Meet the Feebles and all that, but this really doesn't quite hit in the same level. We've seen comedies in the last couple of years. It's funny, the last movie I did last week, Crazy Rich Asians, what I liked about that movie was that it was like a hearkening back to comedies that were not basically these kind of transgressive, envelope-pushing types of movies. And I feel like this is more in play with the kind of comedies we've seen in recent years, where it's all about shock value, all about crudity, and it doesn't necessarily have that kind of great core storytelling that we really like when we go to the movies. I feel like, when you have things like South Park, for example. South Park is a fantastic show, even though it's a more crude for my taste than most stuff I watch. But what I like about South Park, and I've always liked about South Park, is the fact that there's a core, smart, intelligent point to it all, and I didn't really see that with this movie. And unfortunately, what hurts this movie as well is that it's not one of the more unique ideas for movies. If you look at the plot of The Happy Time Murders, a lot of it is taken from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was one of my favorite movies growing up. It was also one of the most unique movies of its time, and it pushed the boundaries of animation and live action mixed together. But when you're doing a movie like this, you need to have a good characterization, good storytelling, and I just did not really see it with this movie. So I really do feel that it kind of missed the mark, and especially for Melissa McCarthy. Melissa McCarthy has had a kind of very 50-50 kind of career with her movies, where some of the movies, she's a very envelope-pushing type of comic actress, but she really thrives when the movies really are just as good as her comedy. There's times where she does these kind of movies and, she kind of puts herself out there and she's very, very talented. And unfortunately, this is just another example where, she's not really supported very well by the material she's doing. So overall, I think it was a real disappointment that, the Happy Time Murders on its surface seemed like such a really good idea, especially from the Jim Henson studio, which I've not seen much of work from in quite some time. But unfortunately, the Henson family are really not quite on the mark with this particular movie. I hope that there'll be more opportunities for the Henson studio to do other unique movies like this, but this is not really one of them that I would really recommend. So overall, I give the Happy Time Murders 2 out of 5 stars. So thank you.